Before we get to create our menus and our loading screen and everything that has to do with UI, we will get to know Unity's UI. Now, the new UI is very practical and it's very good. So we will simply position a game object, or for example a button, where we want it to be and give it an anchor and it will stay there. So let us take a look at how that works. Here I have created a new scene and I am naming it, or I have named it, Inspecting New UI. Now, when we want to create any UI element, we will go here under Game Object, UI, and let's for example create a button. Now, each of the UI elements needs to be a child of a canvas. And we see here that we have clicked to create a button, but we automatically have a canvas. Now, the canvas is the main thing and it will determine, well, how we render things. And here we have a couple of options on this canvas. So for example, we have this render mode and it can be screen space overlay, camera, and world space. Screen space overlay renders our elements on top of our scene, and well, basically when we resize the screen, the UI elements or the canvas will also resize to match that screen. Now when we click here, screen space camera, and this is what we want to use, now we will simply drag a render camera. Now this will render our things relative to the camera, and when camera settings are changed or the size or anything, canvas will resize in order to match that, well, changed settings. And this third option here, world space, will basically place our canvas in the world space inside of that game. Now here I will create an image, so I will go into UI and I will create an image. And we see here that we have the position for X, Y, and Z, and we have the width and the height. And notice here we have a rect transform. We don't have a transform like regular game objects. Now here for the source image, I will select our main menu background. So here we can go main BG. And here I will position this game object to be at 0, 0. Now here we can, well, specify the width and the height that we want, or we can click here on the native size and it will resize this, well, to be the native size. But I don't want it to be native size. I want it to be 1920 by 1400. And now here inside of our canvas, what we will do is here where it says canvas scaler, instead of constant pixel size, we will say scale with screen size. And we will specify a default resolution. For the default resolution, I will say 1280 by 720. And here we can also specify how we want to resize our, well, game objects, that is our UI elements. So what this here means basically is we are telling our canvas to resize with the screen size. And this reference resolution, well, will be the resolution by which will we resize our, well, UI elements. And here we can specify, do we want to match the width or the height? I usually specify 0.5, which is match width and height equally. If we put here, it will match width more than height, and if we put it here, it will well match height more than width. I like to match both at equal size, so like this. One other thing that we can do, but it will not help us, well, with our image here, but we can, well, set this pixel size to be checked. If you have, well, more clear, well, image or background, this will, well, clear it and clarify it, but with our pixelated it will not make any difference. But I just wanted to explain you, well, so that you know how to use it. Now if we for example want to create a button, we will go here under Game Object and then UI and then Button. And here we can, well, see that we have an option for anchors, and we can specify where we want our game object to be. So basically, if we want to position our game object in any of the top corners or bottom corners, we can select one of these anchors, excuse me. Let's say that we want to position our button at the top left corner. We will select this anchor here and we can simply drag our button. So here I will select it and I can drag our button on the, well, top left corner, and I will just resize our button a little bit so we can see a little bit better. So we can position our button here, and notice when we click on our button, we see that its anchor is here at the top left corner. Now if we resize our game view, so no matter how we resize it, we see that the button will stay at the top left corner. Even if I change the resolution, or if I change a port from landscape to portrait, we will see that our button stays in the top left corner. Now I will change it back, and again we can resize, and we see that, well, basically it will resize and also stay in that position where we want it to be. Now this is what I was talking about when I mentioned our anchors. Now I want to talk a little bit more about UI, but I think that it's better if we go along with the tutorial, and when everything comes in our way, we will explain in detail, because what most of the things that we will use here, are panel, button, text, image. We will also use our, well, canvas, and so on and so forth. So we will begin our menus, and that way we will learn a little bit better.